Welcome back. Last Sunday, Channel 3's chief political reporter, Susan Raff, and photographer Jeff Hocken made the trip to New Hampshire to cover the presidential primary there. They got to see Donald Trump and Nikki Haley on the campaign trail in person and talk with voters in the Granite State. Susan is joining us now to share what the experience was like. Welcome back.
Thank you.
I know you've been back for a bit, but tell us about what your impressions were. You've been up there before.
Well, first I want to say we're famous because according to the Red Arrow Diner Facebook page, that's a very popular diner. All the candidates go there. We are on their Facebook page interviewing Rudy Giuliani, who is pouring coffee when we walked in. So I
have a Red Arrow Diner mug from 2002 when I worked at a station in Delaware. That's how far that goes back. It's the place to go if you're campaigning. It's a great experience to go. Very unusual this year, the dynamics, because very few candidates. Democrats really aren't there. You know, last election cycle, President Biden pretty much moved out, didn't want to be in that because he didn't get a lot of support. So he was not there. Biden was a write-in candidate. And he's banking on South Carolina. But you didn't have as many candidates, and it was really this Republican two-person race. While you were there, first I should say it was 2004. You don't have to email me. I thought about the years.
Okay, you're right.
While you were there, DeSantis dropped out, and now really everyone's saying two-person race. Nikki Haley's still in. You're still talking to people about sort of that connection. There's a lot of people interested in that.
A lot of people. We saw a lot of people from Connecticut. Janie Stevenson, who actually is a former select woman of Darien. She's the chairman of this group called Women for Nikki. We saw a lot of Connecticut voters. They're more moderate. Some of them are pro-choice. They really want another option other than Donald Trump. And so we did see a lot of them campaigning up there. And they still feel she has a shot, although some are thinking that she's just not going to make it past South Carolina.
The idea that the independents can cross over in New Hampshire is an interesting one. We've talked so much about the closed primary here in Connecticut, and after one of your reports, my son asked, and I had to explain to Jack, well, I'm an independent. I'm not with a party. I can't go to any primaries here. It's different up there. And it's really fascinating. You said as soon as you're done voting, you can switch back.
It is fascinating. You know, they've talked about having an open primary in Connecticut for a long time. It's never gone anywhere. But so you can vote as an independent or undeclared in New Hampshire, and as soon as you vote, you actually can go in a line and it says undeclared switchback. And there you switch back to your undeclared status. And I asked someone, why do that? They want more latitude. They don't want to be pegged as a Republican. So it's definitely a perk, I think, to be undeclared. Now,
what were your impressions talking to the voters there? Because one of the big things that draws so much attention, you and so many other reporters, is that sort of, again, we'll say it, independent streak in New Hampshire, that the folks there are saying, we're going to do what we want to do and we don't care about anybody else. Did you feel that as you talked to the voters?
Some. I mean, they do have a large voting bloc of independents. Connecticut's, I think, is the largest voting bloc. But there are a lot of Trump supporters. I mean, and they are diehard. We went to a couple of events, talked to some of them. And, it was interesting. I talked to one Trump supporter, and I asked why, with all the problems and the chaos. And he said, well, I don't really like the man. I find him deplorable. But he's like a junkyard dog. He'll keep fighting. And there's a certain element of that. I think that people are very unhappy. I mean, I was surprised even in Iowa, for example, the #1 concern for Iowa voters they listed was immigration or the border. I mean, they couldn't be further away from the border, but they're concerned about that. They're concerned about the economy. But the economy is actually greatly improved now under Biden. We're creating more jobs. But with that, I think the Trump support is it's a phenomenon all to itself.
So you talked about being on the Facebook page, interviewing Rudy Giuliani, going back to that. So what are your impressions this time as you go up there? Did you feel things were different? Did you feel the country's different? Did you feel the candidates were different? Think back on some of your history up there.
I don't know. I think, things have changed in the sense, obviously, the fact that there are more Republicans and less Democrats there. But I think the issues are basically the same. But I think people are angrier now, it seems, and diplomacy kind of has changed a bit. I remember Bernie Sanders doing so well during the primary there. So that gives you a sense of, who's up there. But you do have a lot of conservative people up in New Hampshire who don't like the way the country is going, and they're going to stick with Trump. But here's the thing also that I learned, and that is for a lot of Republicans, there are quite a few who may not want another Trump-Biden you know, match this year, and they're looking for another candidate. I mean, whether Haley survives or not, but I think the same thing goes for Democrats. I think there are Democrats who don't want President Biden in the White House again. Is he too old? Maybe. So where do they go, and who do they support? Or do they, at the end of the day, they're going to go with the candidate they feel that's going to win?
One of the things you did while you're up there is you met up with some Quinnipiac students. Tell us about that.
Yes. Oh, they're so great. So the Quinnipiac students that we met were a great group of people. They go around and they hear from the candidates and they write stories. They've been going up there. Quinnipiac University's political science professor, Scott McLean, has taken students, I think, 23 years up to New Hampshire. And it's such a great experience. And even though this year they're like, well, you know, some debates were canceled, you know, and there's no Biden or a lot of Democrats, they still went anyway. And it's great to see young people's minds. And you know what? Those are the young people who could decide this election, because they are, you know, they get a bad rap, Gen Z, right? Everybody says, oh, they don't care, but they do care. And I think that, you know, they're going to come out and vote. And we'll see what happens.
Well, and certainly if that would be a huge game changer, because historically people in that age group haven't come out and vote in large numbers. So if that does happen, and I agree, I think there is more, whether it's social media or how they interact, there is certainly more engagement.
And you have two older men running, and I think that, especially for President Biden, I think, you know, who tends, I mean, Democrats, a lot of young people tend to gravitate towards the Democratic Party, but now we're seeing a whole new dynamic, too, with President Biden. He's being interrupted, a lot of speeches with pro-Palestinian and Gaza, and they're concerned about that. Will that hurt him? Also, you know, Bernie Sanders has said this, that that Biden has lost touch with a lot of people of color in the cities, and they may not vote for him or have the support. So I think Biden has a lot of work to do.
It almost feels like who you don't want to vote for is going to be what guides things coming up this fall.
But how wouldn't you like that? I mean, that's happened in the past, right?
Of course.
So, you know, you're like, well, my candidate didn't win, but, you know, if I want this party, I have to vote.
Minute left. What are your takeaways? Where does it go from here? Is it a two-man race? Two-old-man race?
I hate to say it, but I think so. And I think that, you know, I saw Haley. I think that she's a bright woman. I mean, she made some campaign flubs about, you know, the Civil War and about, you know, slavery, et cetera, which didn't help. But I think it might be. But it's still early, although they always say, you know, the first, you know, first primaries and caucuses set the tone for the rest of the year. I think we're going to have to wait and see, but I have a feeling that's what's going to happen in November.
All right. Well, we'll keep watching it. You'll keep covering it and bringing us that Connecticut angle. We appreciate you being here to tell us all about it.
You're welcome.
Susan Raff, thank you.